I'm CK. Today we have another module from Djupviks Elektronik. I've done a couple of his modules. They're always interesting. This one is a 2-channel 3-input mixer with a chaotic CV core. So it apparently adds some random CV to your inputs. We'll put it together, see how easily it goes together, put it in the rack, and see how interesting it might be. And I hope you enjoy the video. Now they do say this has got surface mount already pre-installed, so there probably won't be a ton to do here. But let's see what we got inside that we can mess with. First we have to figure out how to open the panel and PCB packaging. I was successful. Now I can't get the bag open normally. And we have the somewhat typical, hard to read, red Lucid panel. It's got a moth or a butterfly. It's probably a Luna moth, if this is Lucid, I don't know. 1, 2, 3 for the inputs, I'm going to assume. There's some LEDs. The outputs are here on top. Let's look at the circuit board. We've got all the surface mount components on already, though we've got a couple of LEDs, out number 1, out 2, 2 pots, then this, I don't really know what this is. This is, that's probably input 1. Yeah, that's input 1, input 2, input 3. No. Input 1, 2, 3. Something like that. A couple of more pots. Power connector goes here. And some LEDs go there. Let's see what's actually in here. It feels like the bag has more stuff in it than what we're seeing. Another. Take a thonk survey. Oh, by the way, as usual, I got this from thonk.co.uk. Here are some hardware, nuts and screws, and so on. In here, let me dump this all out. Make a clatter. Nothing left in the bag. And we've got LEDs. I think we had 2. I'm going to set those aside for a second. Panel nuts, pots. Are they all the same? Are they all 100K? Hopefully, pin header getting in the way of everything. Oh, that's for the power. He's not using a shrouded connector because he usually sets these up so you don't have to worry about polarity on the power connector. He figures it out for you. Oh no, this time he does have red stripe there. Okay. And a power connector. And I was going to say something. Oh, we're going to check these LEDs. That's what we're going to do. See if they're the same. Get my LED buddy out. Power it on. I have a video on putting this together. It's a very handy LED tool. I'll try to remember to link it in the description, but I'll probably forget, so you should yell at me if I do. So we put the LED on there, and that's a red LED, taking 2 volts, needs 120 ohm current limiting resistor. Let's look at the other one, see if it's different. Oh, that's a white one. Okay, so a white LED goes on and a red LED goes on. The white one is 3.1, 3.2 volts to power it up, and 68 ohm resistor, 26 milliamps. That's not unsubstantial. So that's the bits and pieces. I'll go ahead and power up the soldering iron and we'll put this thing together. Now, since there's not a lot of stuff on the board, the build guide is, of course, rather abbreviated. Just basically says put stuff on the board and don't mess up, which is always a good plan for doing whatever. So even though he doesn't actually say, what he doesn't say is he doesn't say which, oh, they're dual color LEDs. Okay. They're red and white LEDs. I just wasn't giving it the right power with the LED buddy. The LED buddy doesn't handle multicolor LEDs all that well. Not a big deal, just something to be aware of. Now we're going to put the power header on first. Oops. Or we're going to throw the power header on the floor first. That might be a good way to start. And we're going to put it on this side, on the side where all the surface mount components already are, because of course this will be the back, this will be the front, because that's where all the knobs and jacks are. So I will set it on my solder pad. Not really care that it's not flat right now. I'll just solder one pin. I got it pretty much flat. That's pretty interesting. Then I'll reheat that pin with my, there, you might have heard it click. It clicked up against the board. And as somebody mentioned in a comment the other day, you do have to be somewhat careful when you do that to not put your finger on the pin you're reheating. I don't care. I have burnt my finger so many times over the last 60 years of soldering that I don't really even notice, but for normal people, you probably do want to be a little bit careful where you put your thumb or pinky or whatever back there, because the pins will absolutely conduct the heat to your finger. As I say, I just don't care. Half my finger nerve endings are done. Okay, I have to take all the panel nuts off the jacks, and that'll take a couple of minutes, so there's going to be a camera skip because you don't need to see that. And we're back live. So first thing I'm going to do is put all the potentiometers on the board, and the reason why I put the potentiometers on the board before I put the jacks on is because these little bends in the legs that help keep the jack firmly in the board while you're working make the board jump a little bit when you push them through, and when that happens, if you have the jacks already set on the board, the jacks will all jump out. Trust me on that one. I've done it more times than I care to remember. But again, all these are 100K potentiometers, so you just slap them on in here. Not soldering anything for a little while because we got to make sure we get the panel aligned correctly. Now I'm going to drop the LEDs through right now. And as I put the LEDs on, there's not a plus sign here, but for LEDs, the cathode goes in the square hole if the board has a square hole, if it's been laid out that way. Now I'll set all the jacks in place. And that's the way they all go. So let's put the front panel on. And everything lines up nicely. Let me get my little clamp. I'm going to clamp it, and I got to make sure I'm not sitting on anything too critical on the front, on the back I mean, the surface mount components. Now what I'm going to do now is, I don't want to keep that clamp there because it's in the way of everything, so I'm going to solder this jack and this pot down here. I don't have to do all the legs, but I tend to do, or I want to do all the legs on these two components simply because I don't want to forget. So now I've got those two soldered, and I can take their panel nuts, snug that one down. Now I can get rid of the clamp. With the clamp out of the way, I'll just solder all these fellas down. And of course, be very careful, because there are surface mount resistors and capacitors and other things right near where you're going to be soldering. And you don't want to brush your soldering iron tip across them or lean back against it and not notice. So just be very aware of the surface mount components that are already on the board. Oh, and I'm going to push the LEDs through the front panel like so. So I will speed this up. Fast playback coming. Now before I go any further, I'm going to take a little piece of paper, go through and make sure I got everything soldered. Yep. So now I'll put the rest of the panel nuts on. Now comes the hardest part for me, which is putting these non-indexed knobs on, because since they're non-indexed, I'm kind of eyeballing, making sure they're all in line with each other, and they probably won't be. Again, when I look at something like a Marshall amp, like 11 or 12 knobs on it, all unindexed, when I work on one, the index lines are all over the place. I don't know how they get them all in line with each other. Some people have knacks at things that I certainly don't. Then we put the power connector on, and there's a mark on the board showing you where the red stripe goes. In fact, there's words that say red stripe. And that's the way it looks. That's the front. Input 1, 2, and 3 for side 1, 1, 2, and 3 for side 2. Outputs are on top, knobs for each. That's the front, the side, the back, the other side, the top, and the bottom. A very, very quick build, as you saw. Now we'll put it in the rack and do some mixing, and also, where is it? Again, I'm going to read the description. It's a dual 2-channel CV mixer, 3 inputs each, and an output per channel with a chaotic CV core. A chaotic engine is normalized to input 1 on both channels. Each output has attenuverters to offset the sum on each channel. All inputs have attenuverters attached as well. The chaotic CV generator is completely removed if a signal is inserted into channel 1. This module is essential to create complex yet reoccurring and semi-random waveforms and patterns. So we'll put it in the rack, probably set up the oscilloscope because it looks like it's going to be generating some interesting waveforms, and see how it does. Okay, we're in the rack. I don't have much set up, and because honestly, I'm a little unsure about what this thing actually does. So we'll see. And I'll get the The oscilloscope is warming up, so we don't see anything from that quite yet. But as you can see, well, I just saw the LEDs going off a little bit on the number 2 channel. I don't know why. So I've got it coming out of the number 1 channel right now. And again, I'm waiting for the oscilloscope to warm up. And if you look, let me bring the oscilloscope up. See what's happening already? That's an interesting waveform that's creeping around here. Let's see what happens when I turn this knob. Oop. It moves all around. Very chaotic. So let me turn up this sequence that I've got running and take this output, this chaotic, semi-chaotic output, and put it into frequency modulation. Well, that's certainly interesting. So you can see how it's creating its own chaotic little rhythm there. I'm going to try that somewhere else. Let's do H-Sync's not going to do anything. I'm going to put this into the clock input. No, it's not putting out enough for that. Let's try it in volts per octave just for fun. So that's kind of interesting. Now I'm going to take the output from this LFO, which one is this? LFO number 2, excuse me, LFO number 2. I'll put it into input 1. And now you can see what that's doing. I'm going to take this all the way down. So that's being pretty interesting, and that's from what I said, LFO2. Let me speed up LFO2. Take the volts per octave down here. I mean, you can see it rippling a little bit. Let me slow that way down. So you can see how this is adding a little bit of chaos to the relatively straight line. If I take this output and show it to you just as it is, you can see there's no, let me bring that back in here. See, it's just being kind of normal there. Nice straight lines. Now with that in as input 1 here, and with the chaos factor added, you can see how it just adds a little bit of jagginess to the line. Let me increase that a little bit more. So that's the interjection of chaos that he's talking about. I'm going to put another LFO into this mix. Which one? This one. What is it? Oh no, it's plugged into that. I'll plug it in to number 2 input here. So, I got all too high for me again. That should be mixing those two. I'm going to turn the rate up on the LFO. There we go. Now it's mixing the two LFO signals. And I'm trying to make sure I got my wires right. Oh, it's because I'm in FM there. I don't want to be in FM there. I want to be in that. And sorry, I got myself all confused. And that green one goes in volts per octave. So you can see how it's mixing the two LFO signals together, as well as adding some chaos. Take chaos further out. Take LFO 1 down. Now I'm going to take input 2 out again, so we're now back to just one LFO with its input with a little chaos added in. I'm going to put this in 3, and then I've got one more LFO. I've got one more LFO I can throw in here. Put that in there. Oh, now we're all nutty. Taking the chaos out, it's still nutty because I've got 3 competing LFOs going at it. Just kind of neat. And then add the chaos. So look at the kind of waveforms you can generate here. I'm going to now take that and put that in volts per octave again, because that looks like it might be interesting. It's a little low. Let me come up on the... I'm going to do something else here. I'm going to pause the cameras for a second. I'm going to put a drum module in here, see how that works also. So stand by for a moment. Actually, I'll leave the cameras running. I'll just speed this up. You'll see a bunch of stuff happening. Okay, I'm back, and I plugged in this Edu snare drum, which I really like the sound of, and I, of course, have a video on it on the channel, but let me get it set up. Let me set my trigger in. I don't know if this is working. Is this working? What did I just plug in there? Just plugged that one in. So that's what we're getting right now, a regular kind of snare drum. Now I'm going to take that mixed LFO output that I've been using and put that into the accent, just to see what that does. I'm going to put it into tune. I'm going to put it into snappy. I'm going to try it in trigger, even though I don't know if this will work because it's a, yeah, that's not working. What I'm going to do is, what am I doing? I'll go yellow down to pulse. I'm going to take red into pulse also. So that didn't get me quite what I was looking for, but that's okay, because it still works for, let me get back to doing my regular triggering. Now I forget where I'm going. Coming out there, going to pink. Pink is going, oh, pink's going the wrong place. That's not what I wanted. I want to go, this one I want to go in there. So I put all the LFOs into pulses. So you can hear what that's doing. I'm adjusting the LFOs. That's an interesting rhythmic pattern, isn't it? That sounds like a neat little shuffle, doesn't it? So that's what it does. You can take your CV signals. I didn't try it with the output, the actual audio output, did I? Why don't I do that? We'll put, where is that going? I'll take this out of trigger and put output into here. See what we're getting. We're not getting anything right now because I want to take this one out of here and put it into the You can hear it adding a little bit of input, but it's the frequencies are happening so fast it's not doing a ton. So actually modifying an LFO signal seems to be, or that type of input seems to be much more interesting. You're not going to use this with audio very often, but you'll use it with other signals. And that's the flatline signal again. I'll put the LFO signal back in, and you can see what it's doing to that. If I just plug that LFO signal directly in, look on the scope, and you'll see it's a regular ramp. But going through here, it gets very fuzzed out. So, an interesting little module from Djupviks, and a very quick build. And as you'll see here, we've peaked at 32 milliamps, but that was on startup. We're just running at 14 or 15 milliamps, so it's not using much power at all. And it's an interesting unit from these folks, and I hope you enjoyed the video.